terms of faith, understand, everything we do happens in the mind. If you can't see it, it definitely can manifest in the physical realm. So you have to have some sort of level of faith. When I say the name God, it gives me chill because I know what He's done in my life. So when you know God, you truly know God, you can't help yourself but to have faith in God. Everything I do is based on faith. I'm not scared about anything because I know what's in front of me. Someone in front of me that guides me, and my biggest fear is to lose God's favor. We don't work based on sight. We do everything we do based on faith. Faith is something only you can see, only you can feel. It's a personal relationship you've got with God Himself. You don't need anyone to believe in your vision, in your dreams, in your goals. No one else needs to believe in it, just you. And have faith in God that it will deliver itself.
You know, my friend, he's been here, Collins has been here before, a few months ago, and he helps us to look through an idea, a concept around our church building campaign. And after that session, I thought, you know what, this guy is loaded. Yeah, I know he's a wealthy man. We'll talk about that later. He's going to drop a check before he leaves. Yeah. Okay. But having said that, I thought there's something that he carries that is just beyond the idea of knowing something about money. He carries an intuition of some sort. And tonight, the Holy Spirit is going to lead him in this conversation. He perhaps might not be opening the Bible. It's okay. But he's going to be talking about something that has roots in the Bible. He's going to be talking about wealth creation and faith, because there's a faith in him that he cannot shed easily. And by the grace of God, please put your hands together as we make welcome. Mr. Collins Mayaki. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Please sit down.
Thank you.
Just to kick you off tonight, I have a few questions for you. Is that okay?
Do you guys like my socks? I got this from a African shop.
Oh,
I think it's South African. I think so. Yeah.
you know where the African shop is, right?
Yeah, I do.
So, in other words, just before you leave tonight, can you take this one? All right. A quick question. Collins, could you start by sharing what drew you to explore the intersections between wealth creation and godly people, faith, whatever that is?
Where do I start? I think at first I gotta acknowledge my father. You know, I think my father is my hero. Now that I'm grown up, the older I get, the more I really appreciate my father. You know, from a very young age to my late 20s, even my early 30s, I never really appreciate my father. My father instilled something in me that no other man has. He was very relentless. He believed in us. He never gave up on us. So he gave me that idea of, you know, what's possible and what could be achieved. But at the same time, I saw my father serve God. He's a religious Catholic man. You know, we grew up in a Catholic home, and my father is one of those people you never negotiate going to church. It's non-negotiable. It's not like you go to church or you leave my home. It's you going to church. It's no A or B. And I saw the way he carried himself, and to today, I don't think I will ever be half the man he is. Not half. Now, going to the topic of wealth, I kind of mistakenly stumbled across it. Like, as a kid, I never imagined myself to be where I am today. You know, ask me as a little kid, what did I want from my life? I just wanted a house, a car, beautiful wife, beautiful kids. That's it. Very basic life. That's what I wanted. And the more I grew up, the more I started chasing knowledge. I started realizing that We can have it all. Why settle for just a house if I can have a couple? Why settle for average if I can be great? And that's how the whole conversation started.
Oh, how amazing is that? It almost felt like you were here yesterday because we're talking about salvation and what salvation entails. And salvation also entails wealth. Okay? Because, the Bible tells us very clearly that Jesus became poor, that through his poverty we might become rich. Okay, so being rich is not averse to Christianity. But having said that, my next question is, how can faith influence our approach to managing and growing wealth? And that will be my final question before you.
I think it's everything. The truth be told, most of the project I do, I don't have the money for it. It's everything. I've got this saying that, it's in the Bible. I'm not your pastor whatsoever. Most of the information I know, let me backtrack it. The greatest book I've read is the Bible. Someone asked me a question last week, when I was doing a presentation. They go, Collins, what's your top 5 books you would recommend to read from a business standpoint? I said the Bible, number 1. They said, the Bible is not a business book. I say, literally, the Bible talks a lot about business. You just don't know it. So in terms of faith, understand, everything we do happens in the mind. If you can't see it, it definitely can manifest in the physical realm. So you have to have some sort of level of faith. Now, if we truly do believe in God, when I say the name God, it gives me chill because I know what he's done in my life. I laugh, I smile sometimes because, guys, if you knew me 20-something years ago and look at me now, you're like, it can't be. So when you know God, you truly know God, well, you can't help yourself but to have faith in God. Yes. Everything I do is based on faith. I'm not really scared about anything whatsoever, not because I'm Nigerian. I'm not scared about anything because I know what's in front of me.
Yes.
Right? And again, I don't want to sound like I am preaching. I am not. This is just me giving you basic how I live my life. I truly do believe that there's someone in front of me that guides me. And my biggest fear in life is not my assets. I don't care if my kids, not that I don't care, but if my kids say, Dad, I don't love you anymore, see you later. My partner say, I don't love you anymore, see you later. I lose my business, I lose my asset, lose everything. And my biggest fear is to lose God's favor. And I think we all take that for granted because I say this to you guys, we don't work based on sight, we do everything we do based on faith. And if you work based on faith, you'll be surprised because faith is also some sort of like a vision. You've got a vision. Faith is something only you can see, only you can feel. It's a personal relationship you've got with God himself. That's why, most business owners or most business people will say to you, you don't need anyone to believe in your vision, in your dreams, in your goals. No one else needs to believe in it, just you. Yeah. And have faith in God that it will deliver itself. So that's my opinion.
He's already started. I'm going to leave you to it. We're here till God knows when, right? Well, I know by 5:50 we'll be done with this particular session because we have another session at 6 p.m.
Beautiful.
So, you know what? Do what you do.
Okay.
God bless you. Please put your hands together.
Thank you. All right. Let's talk about, while we're here today, I want to know in terms of how I can deliver what needs to be delivered. Can I just randomly pick someone? I'll go you. Why are you here today?
I'm part of this session because I want to see how I can gain knowledge that will help me to create wealth and not just help me and my family, but to advance the kingdom of God.
Beautiful. And I'm going to look for a young girl. It's very important we empower our girls. Very important. Which girl would be, I don't want to put you guys on show. Who's brave enough to just say why they're here today? And if you got dragged by mom and dad, also say, that's okay. Who's going to volunteer themselves? I'm looking at this direction. We've got some amazing young girls here. You know what? Go for it. Tell me, why are you here today?
I'm here to maybe know how to start a business because I also want to start my own. So I want to get some knowledge about that.
I love that. And what did you say your name was?
Esther.
Esther. So let's start with Esther. You know what? Give Esther a round of applause. That's quite good. That's quite good. How to start a business. Let's start with that. Looking at the time, it's 4:40 now. Just that topic alone can take an entire day. But when you talk about start a business, this is where I want to challenge you all. Do you really need to start a business? Do you really need to? It's a very common statement, starting a business, let's start a business, start a business. Now you know the direction I'm going with this. We don't need to start a business. So let's say, I want to go into the entertainment industry, or I want to go into property industry, or I want to go into fashion, whatsoever. There's someone or a competitor that's already doing that you're pulling inspiration from. And there's always business online being sold. So Esther, how old are you, Esther? 14. That's powerful. You're 14 and you're already thinking about would you start a business. My encouragement to you, and Esther, listen, I will volunteer to you. If you really want to start a business, you seriously want to do a business, come see me, come talk to me, and I'll show you how to buy a business. You don't need to ask mom and dad for money. You don't need to put in $100 or $200. You would buy a profitable business.
Yes.
Right? Understand it. Obviously, you need to be a little bit creative. You need to be a little bit. You need to apply some sort of form of negotiation, but you don't have to follow the normal route everyone goes. The point is, everyone is doing the same thing. What can you do differently? You're trying to get here. You're currently here. Yes, if you start a business, eventually you're gonna get there. It could be 1 year, it could be 2 years, it could be a decade. But why go through the process? It already exists there. Just go there. Right? But you just don't know how. So let's give an example for the sake of Esther. I don't know if we've got a board.
Yes.
Can I write on this? But I'll talk.
Yes.
I can. All right. Okay. So I'm a vendor. Let's say Esther, you're looking at starting a salon, right? Can I write on it? Yeah. Salon, and based on your estimate, you're saying it's going to cost me $50,000 to get everything up and running, right? And on this side, you've gone on, what's it called? Business sales websites where people are selling their businesses. And there's a vendor here, and by the way, Esther, vendors, we call them people that are selling something. It could be a property, it could be a business. And you've got a vendor here looking at selling. I'm not going to put big numbers so it doesn't scare you. Let's just say they're selling their business for 100,000. Maybe that's still too big, I don't know. 100,000, right? And this business, it's making a net profit of $50,000 yearly, right? Would you be better off starting a business and you invest in 50,000? Maybe in the first year you probably might not even earn 20,000, or would you be better off buying this business that is for sale for 100,000, and in the first year you earn 50,000? Which one would you think is better, Esther? This one? Of course. Yes, this one. Yes. But now the question is, how do I go about buying this $100,000 business? I don't have 100,000, right? Sorry, I'm back. I've got my back on you guys. Sorry about that. I don't have 100,000. Now, this is where you got to understand, why is this person selling? It is a great time to buy a business. I have got so many opportunities that I'm even saying I don't want it. Why? We are currently at that stage where there's a lot of people retiring and they don't have successors. They don't have anyone else that they can pass on that business to. Their kids don't want the business. Their business partners don't want the business. And what typically ends up happening, they end up just closing down the business. And you come around and you say, Mr. Vendor, I know you're looking at selling your business for 100,000, right? I don't have 100,000, but I would like to buy your business. Why don't I buy this business from you and I'll pay you over a period of 2 or 3 years? Now, we already know this business is generating 50,000. Now, you can step into that business and say, okay, you know what, I'll pay this business over a 2-year period. Why? Because we know it's earning 50,000. And over the 2-year period, I will pay the 100,000. Now, in your head, you might be thinking, it sounds too good to be true. Understand, we are the one that always complicate things. Things are literally that simple. It's literally that simple. Now, would everyone fall under this equation? No. You will get some certain people that will turn around and go, no, I want to cash now because I'm looking at investing, blah, blah. You got to find the right people. And once you start looking, you will find them. Right? So that's just a quick, basic understanding in terms of how you go about doing it. My recommendation, no one should be talking about startups. People should be buying, except the business idea you're trying to come up with doesn't exist. But if the business already exists and there's a platform where you can buy those type of business, don't bother yourself about starting up, because this is the hardest way to do business. That's why we all know the statistic. You can all bring up your phone. The statistic shows startups in the first year, more than 50% fail. First year. Within the next 5 years, the leftover 50%, 70% of them fail. 5 years. Then in 7-8 years, we're still left with a small chunk amount of them. Within the next 7-8 years, the rest also fail. Once you start hitting closer to a decade, then you kind of make it in a way. Now, when COVID came, it wiped out a lot of businesses. Wiped out! And we can still see the carnage when you go past George Street in the city. There's still a lot of shops still closed to today. It's been almost close to 2 years, and you can still see it. Right? So, don't start a business. That's my recommendation. Rather, buy a business. The statistics of starting a business is not in your favor. But again, there's some exceptions to the rule. If you're starting up a niche business that doesn't exist whatsoever, then yes, go for it. All right? Cool. Any questions in regards to starting up a business? And thank you very much, Esther, for giving me a platform to start up with. Thank you. Do anyone have a question for me in regards to starting up a business? I know we kept it very, very basic, but any questions? What are you thinking me saying, buy a business? What's floating in your mind? Are you going, this guy's delusional, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about? What's going through your mind? What challenges are you facing? Do everybody understand this, how simple that concept is? That you can just buy it? I'll give you this.
Thank you for the foundation. Wonderful. However, after buying the business, how do you manage to make that 50K per year? How do you wanted to run it, for example, you give the example of the salon. If you are not skilled in that, is it that you now have to employ staff? And how do you do it?
Please do note. I'll get you to all that. You already have the idea that you want to start a business. So I'll be assuming you see that you've got a passion in it, or you already have some sort of skills in that. Either way, you're going to do it. So won't you want a better probability of you succeeding? Because when you're stepping into an existing business, they already have the infrastructure. They already have the clientele. They have the staff. It's what your chance of you succeeding is actually greater than you doing this. I'm not saying everyone should just go start a business, but I'm saying if you have the desire to start a business, it's something you want to do, cancel that idea. Don't start a business, rather buy a business. I'm not saying leave your job and go buy a business. Only do this if you're already thinking about this. Yeah? Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else? I'll be open for way more questions. All right, we'll go on. Sorry. Mine. I'll grab yours.
All the time I've come to realize that the reason why people sell their businesses is because it's not working and it's not just working for them. And you going to buy that business is not you inheriting the problem that was there in the first place that has not made the business thrive or work out.
Okay, that's a really good question. Let's list out what are some of the reasons why people sell their business. Not profitable. Yeah, that's what you said. Retirement. Divorce. Illness. Business partner breakup. There's a multitude of lists. Now understand, yes, this could be a reason why some people are selling their business. You don't need to buy this type of business. There's too many businesses out there. Do you know the number, the aging populations we've got in Australia? Most of the people that own businesses were my fathers. The younger generations don't have businesses. Most of the business owners have been running business for 30 years, 20 years, and things like that. A lot of them fall under this category, retirement. And you get a situation, husband and wife have a business, they're going through a separation, divorce, and that's the reason why they're selling it. Someone has got a critical illness, they can't run a business anymore, that's the reason why they're selling it. Two business partners. So you go through the lists. Obviously, you need some sort of sound financial knowledge for you to be able to read financials and things like that, for you to be able to understand the numbers. Numbers matters. I know I'm breaking it down very easily, but if you don't know your numbers, how do you even know if a business is profitable? Right? You won't know, right? I've seen so many financials in my entire life that all I need to do, it takes me, as long as it's not a multitude of PTY Ltd with trust linked to another trust linked to a discretionary stock, but let's just keep it very simple. Let's just say it's a PTY Ltd, trading under a PTY Ltd. You give me the financial, you give me the profit and loss, the business transaction tax return. Within less than 5-10 minutes, I'll tell you if it's profitable or not. Obviously, depending on what type of business we're talking about. Now, if you're talking about those type of business that deals with a lot of cash in hand, restaurant type of business, then the business owner say, a lot of things transacted in cash, then, this is where you got to be a little bit cautious in terms of how do you go about it. Do you need to go into the business and see how they trade, what amount of it is cash and things like that. But For me, I would rather, because just based on the way I operate, I'll only buy something that's on the books because it's just easier for me to be able to determine if it's profitable or not. Does that answer your question? Right? So, but again, and this is where you got to understand. It's this idea, it's amazing what you said, but let's get to the realization that the reason why we are where we are is because of who we are. And the excuses and the ideas we put in the head based on other people's opinion or based on what we've heard happen to someone, whatever, you borrowed that idea from somewhere, which has prevented you from opportunities. That if businesses are selling, it's because they're not profitable. Because why in hell would everyone sell? You're making money, why would you sell? I used to think like that 20 years ago. Like, why would anyone sell? No. Yeah. Won't touch it. It's not profitable, not making money. No. There's businesses out there that is making so much money that you can literally buy it, and from day one, you're making money. Amazing. But if you're not looking out for it, you will never find it. Driving here to this place, which is quite far, because I'm so used to real estate, I saw so many opportunities. So much opportunities. Now, you and I can drive past this street. I would see 3 opportunities, and you will see none. Because you don't have the lens for it, or because you're not looking for it. We can't see everything. We got to be looking for it, we got to be focused on it. It's just like the same idea of when people buy a car. You know, you want that red Tesla, whatever, and then as soon as you buy the red Tesla, because now you have a red Tesla, then everywhere you drive around, you see a red Tesla. That's the way it works. You got to be in it. You got to be looking for it to present itself to you. It's just the same way when you speak to a stockbroker, or you speak to a real estate agent, or you speak to a chiropractor, or you speak to someone in the NDI field. When you get someone that works in the NDI space and they go to certain areas, they would identify opportunity that is aligned with what they do. We cannot see it all, but the fact that we can't see it all, you as a human being, you got to now understand that I need to have a mindset that is open to opportunities even if I can't see it. And I need to start questioning myself, why do I have these thoughts? Why do I say good morning? Why do I act like this? Why do I use my right leg when I'm putting on my trousers? Why don't I use my left legs? Why do I cross my arms like this? Why don't I cross it the other way? We're all kind of programmed in certain things and how we think, how we move, but you just don't know it. But you got to be alert, you got to be aware of this, that you're just living in a program. I'm living in a program. But I actively program myself in certain ways that benefits me, my community, my family, my loved ones. And that's it. But you got to be very strategic in what you do. All right? Cool. Got a question here. Have you got a mic with you? Oh, no, it's not. I'll give you.
My question is about finance, where to come up with the money. Because, like, for example, this business is written 50K, so I might have 50K, but I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. So what other avenues can I use to get money that's not only like getting a business loan and so on? Are there any other avenues that I can get finance to buy the business?
What's your name? Sam. All right, so Sam just asked the question in regards to, I may have the money to buy the business for 50K, but I don't want to use my money. You never want to use your money, even if you have the money. I'm a big, like, some people say the other way around, but me, I'm a big believer of that. I never want to use my money. You always want to go the non-traditional way of doing things. The better you get at negotiating, for me now, it's a sport, it's a game. Like the other day, I'll give you an example. The other day, I was speaking to a gentleman and I was looking at upgrading one of my cars. He was asking for a certain amount. I had the money, I could give it to him. I'm like, no, I don't want to give him this money. Let me just ask him the idea. I'm like, listen, hey, I want this car, but would you do some sort of like a staged payments kind of where I take the car and I put it on luxury lease, I manage your lease, then the money I get from it, I will pay you back bit by bit. Surprisingly, he was open to the idea. Now let's go back to this question. You want to buy a business worth $50,000, you may have $50,000 but you don't have the money. Now, give you a few ideas. What stops you from raising capital? What stops you from going to Michael's and saying, hey Michael, got this great business idea. You see, there's this business I saw. These are the numbers. It's profitable. This. How would you like to come in on this business as a 10% shareholder and you go see other 5 people? You raise that 10,000 or 5 people. Then all of a sudden, you've got a business with none of your money, with everyone else's money. You give them 10% shareholders, they become 10% stakeholders, and you're 50% stakeholders. The point is, there is money everywhere. You gotta truly believe it, that there is money everywhere. You don't need to have that money in your bank accounts. But everyone's got money. There's money. This is got money. Get money. Like, I could want to buy a business worth $10 million. If I can properly articulate the profits, the revenue of that business, I could literally come pitch you guys and say, guys, who wants to be a millionaire? I've got a great deal for you guys. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. Would you like to go on this journey with me? And if you can do that really well, you can raise the funds. And you would end up owning 50% of a business that you didn't have to put a dime into it. And you can replicate that over and over and over and over again. Or you can speak to the vendor and say, listen, hey, I don't have the business, but hey, you're retiring. You can't service the business anymore. I'm still very young. I can continue the legacy that you've started, but I need time to pay you this money over time. What do you say? Are you willing to do that? Yes, no. And again, you got to really understand what appeals to the person. Everyone are different. You got to learn to listen to what people are saying. Ask questions. Really ask questions. Would you be good at it in your first pitch? No. Second pitch? No. Third pitch? No. 10th pitch? 15th pitch? No. But the more you do it, the better you become. The first time I said to someone like this, I don't have the money, I want to buy it, they laughed at my face. Do it again, I got better with some of my language, they laughed at my face. But you just got to be persistent and keep going. And the more you do it, the better you just get at it. But you don't need money for it. And again, sometimes if it is really, really profitable, you can even take that business to the bank. If it's profitable, really profitable, and the banks will give you 50% of the business. They'll give you a loan for it. Then you can loan the rest of the 50% of the business. Do you guys want to hear a deal that I currently have going on at the moment? Yeah. Would you? I'll give you a real life example. It hasn't gone through yet. There is a property on Harris Street in Baltimore. It's a commercial and residential. So by zone commercial. I saw this property online and I knew this is a deal that the vendor potentially might want to do a deal on. Why? Few things, few indication. It's been on the market for over 7 months. One of the top level is currently vacant, and there is what's the other thing? The signage on it literally doesn't have the full complete numbers of the real estate agents. Half of the sign is kind of falling off or something. But I saw realestate.com and I knew, well, the owner is probably over this stuff. He wants to get rid of it. Two, the real estate agent is tired of showing people that he's not really paying attention to this stuff anymore, right? So there are few telltale signs I was able to pick up. And surprise, surprise, I was so right. I called the agent, showed up to the inspection. Guess what? Agent didn't show up. Showed up, I'm like, hey, Andrew, where are you, buddy? Yeah, listen, can we reschedule? Okay. Showed up the next day, booked another appointment for the next day. Showed up, on my way driving, they called me, said, listen, I've got an emergency. Can we reschedule? Hey, I know you're enjoying this video. For any inquiries and mentorship opportunity, which I would be really looking forward to working with you, in this description below, you can get all my details, and I look forward to working with you soon. But that's okay. It's a good indication because the agent has given up on that property. He knows it's a dead end. He knows. He's been doing for over 6 months and no bites, right? So eventually when I got him on there, I looked at the property, looked at everything, and I told him, tell me, what's the situation? When I'm buying a property, I don't ask about, what sort of tile is this, which is what a lot of rookie do. What sort of tile is this? No, I don't care about that. I ask, why is the owner selling? How old are they? Do they have kids? Do they live here? Are they based overseas? Are they married? Are they going through divorce? Blah, blah. Sometimes the agents know, because good agents typically ask, why are you selling? And they'll tell the agents exactly all the stuff. I said, what's the owner's wish list? Like, what is he trying to accomplish here? What's his bottom line? And he told me everything. And guess what he said? The owner has got a property of portfolios, and he's basically at his retirement phase, and he's trying to get rid of his portfolio and keep the ones he really loves. Like, bingo. All right, okay. Now, this is how I structured the deal. I'm still in the process, by the way. So I'm talking about the real life scenario right now. The asking price, $3.5 million. I will buy this with no money. $3.5 million is the asking price. Right? Now, because it's a commercial property, there's something called a lease doc application. Has anyone heard of a lease doc application? No? Has anyone bought a commercial property here before? No? Okay, all right. So maybe you want to heard it. So lease doc means you can literally go to the bank, because I don't have taxable income. My taxable income, I can't borrow that. Not with my amount of liability. I can't. So I literally took the rental income of that property and say to the bank, this is what I would like to use as serviceability to borrow the money for this property. So that's what we call lease stock. So lease stock is basically you taking the lease on that property or that asset, taking it to the bank, regardless if you earn money or not, regardless if you've got any other liabilities. So it's good for people that's got so much liabilities, not much income, taxable income, to be able to show to the bank. So use that, and the banks came back and said, based on this particular property, as long as valuation stacks up, we would borrow up to 60% on this based on that paper. Then I go, okay, perfect. Now I'm down 40%. Where am I gonna get this 40%? I know I can get the 60%. Where am I gonna get the 40%? Called back my agent buddy and I said, listen, hey, I really like that property. Let's do a deal. Does the owner want to sell? I said, yes, I want to sell. I want my commission. I'm like, yes, you're going to get your commission as long as you work with me. So let's work together. Can you go back to the vendor? Tell them, I know they want to sell, but can they give me 40% of the asking price as a vendor finance? The guy scratched his head. He goes, what do you mean give me money? He wants to sell, not give you money. What are you talking about? So a lot of real estate agents don't know how that process works. which is vendor finance. A lot of agents don't understand how this works. So you need to be able to educate the real estate agents on how that process works. I said, listen, just go back to the owner, tell them that, listen, I want a vendor finance. So on settlement day, what will happen is they would take that amount and they'll call it like an equity gift for this matter to settle. And behind the scene, we can put back some sort of caveat on that property to secure their ownership of that 40%. And over an agreed amount of time, at this point in time, I'm trying to negotiate 5 years to pay back the 40%. I don't want to rush and pay it back, whatever. The aim is to pay it back, I want to pay it back based on the income coming from that, not from any other income. It must be from the income from here. Surprise, surprise. This week it came back saying the owner is open to the idea. Now, let's go back. I don't have the money to buy this property. I don't have the capacity to buy this property. But here I am, potentially might be the owner of this property in 2 to 3 months' time, depending on how quick the solicitors work to organize with the paperwork. That's the type of approach you need to start taking. Now, this is a small deal. This is a very tiny deal. Really, really tiny deal. I'll give you guys another example. There's another deal for any of you that might be interested. Do anyone know a place called Lewisham? Yeah. There is an apartment block of 30 something or 40 something apartments. I saw that development and I identified that this would be a good one because the for sale sign has been on it for over 7 months. 8 months even. I won't be surprised if it hasn't been for a year, but I've noticed it for over 7 months. I called the real estate agent. I said, what's the story here? Then he told me the builder's gone bankrupt. It's under the administrator. Perfect. They want to sell. They want to do a deal. They want to do a deal. Now, the only reason why I'm not going to proceed with that deal, not because of the asking price, they're asking for $25 million. I don't care about the price. You can say 100 million. I don't have 100 million. We're going to work together to make it happen. The only reason why I'm pulling away from it is because when I went in there to go look at it, it was way beyond me, not because of the price, but because I don't know much about the compliance required to complete it. It has only been 90% completed and it's got a lot of defect issues. But I personally still think that's a good deal. It's a good deal. If I understood how to rectify those defects without it coming back to really bleed me. Because again, if you're not careful, it can backfire at you. Now, because I didn't really understand how I would rectify those defects, and because I didn't understand how to go about doing the completion, I pulled back away from it. But that property would have been my best and highest acquisition I've ever done, if I knew the construction piece of it. Now, why am I saying this to you, guys? These are just numbers. It doesn't mean anything. And you really got to start looking at things like that. Do you know buying a $100,000 business is way much more harder compared to buying a $50 million business? Would you believe me when I say that? It's think about it this way. Most people selling a $100,000 business, they're so emotionally involved in it. People selling $50 million business, there is no emotion to it, it's just purely numbers. They are the ones that are willing to do deals with you. Not these guys, not mom and dads. Mom and dads potentially would do it, but it's too emotional. No, there's nothing wrong with that. But you get better deals and people willing to be more creative with creative financing with you on bigger deals. So what I'm saying here is dream bigger. The reason why we find all this challenge is because we're actually dreaming too small. We gotta dream bigger. You're saying to me you want to buy one property, I'm like, buy 10. I haven't even bought one. Buy 10. You'll be surprised how easy it is. Right? Cool. Any other questions for me? Any questions?
Thank you. I just want to follow up on the specific to your stress conflict now. Right. So you have a lease stock and then potentially a 5-year payment plan. Right. So if you acquired a lease stock based off of the rental of that facility, how do you intend to pay off the 40% on the 5 years in structure?
That's a very, very, very good question. Now, do understand, when banks are lending to you, you would know this, they have what's called a risk calculation, and they do add a buffer. In commercial, most of the time, most banks will lend you up to like 70%, most times. On average, typically around that 60%. Typically, that's what they will lend to you. And when they factor in that, they would assume that, if interest rate is 6%, they will add an extra 2, 3, sometimes 4% onto it. So remember this, one of the level is vacant. There is massive, massive uplift opportunity in this deal. We're going based on the levels that is currently tenanted. And based on that, with the buffer, interest rate buffer that the banks have added onto it, they're saying you have the capacity, without going in depth in numbers, you have the capacity to make the repayment of that 60%. Now let's backtrack on this. If the interest rate is 6%, they're assessing me on 10%, and they're saying I have the capacity to pay for that 60%. What does that tell you? I've got 4% in terms of capacity of repay, and when I add another tenant in there, what do you think that's going to do? Bring more income, which allows me to pay for the rest of the 40%. That's how I've calculated. But not only that, based on what I've done here, I've noticed that there is an opportunity to increase the rents on the other two as well, because they haven't done rent renegotiation on it for over 2 years. And these are the things you got to look at and go, okay, if I acquire this, can I add value to it? Is there room to add more value to it? Because the aim is the repayments, everything, the vendor financing, have to come out from this deal. I don't want it to come out from my pocket. Remember, I said to you, I've got no money. I don't have any money to put in this deal. This deal has to be sustainable on its own. So that's the way I've structured it. All right? That's a really good question.
Hello. All right. Thanks, Collins. It's amazing. It's quite interesting that you're talking about numbers at this level. That's interesting. And perhaps, take a consensus in this room about people who might be thinking, that's a big ask, And what you're talking is way above my head. And they still work. They're in the rat race, so to speak. But they're not quite sure how to get off the rat race and come into this way of thinking and be able to actually, start off something that is, potentially like what you're saying. So how would you, or what would you say to someone who is in the rat race, thinking about the future, maybe future 2, 3, 5 years from now, to start to really think about this and seeing the future within buying a business or starting up this way, and yet they have 0 savings? Because the first thing people will think about is, I don't have money. Okay, like you rightly said, you could say that because you've been in this for quite a while. But when people think about, I don't have money and I have bills to pay, what would you say to such people?
I love this question. I'll say your environment. Now, do understand, doesn't mean because you've listened to me today, thinks you're going to walk out there and miracles just going to start happening. It's not going to happen. For me to get to this phase where I'm doing this is things that I've been working on for over a decade. It doesn't happen like that. So if you have someone that has the desire to be more than where you currently are, you have the desire to be more than what you currently is achieving, then something is going to change. You cannot achieve something different and doing the same thing. So you got to strategically place yourself in the right environment, strategically place yourself in the right rooms, strategically place yourself with the right mentor, strategically place yourself with the right networking groups, and do it consistently, because there's a reason why, Pastor Michaels will say, you come to church every Sunday. Do you think you need to hear the word of God once and now you know? It doesn't work like that. It is consistent. You got to work at it. You got to come to those events. You got to have a mentor. Right now, speaking to Esther, I do hope that you reach out to me. I'll be happy to mentor you. I'll be happy to use you as a case study. Right? But you have to place yourself in the right environment. Someone said to me, oh, Collins, you don't have to place yourself in the right environment. I can always resist the devil. I'm saying, it doesn't mean because you can resist the devil, it means you want to place yourself in the environment of the devil. Understand that? It doesn't mean because you can resist the devil, mean you want to place yourself in that environment. So the advice I would say for people that are inspiring to do more is strategically start placing yourself in the right environments. If you've identified someone as a person that is achieving something you want in the future, align yourself with them. Ask them questions. The problem that I see, people don't ask questions. People don't reach out. People actually don't. And they wonder what's going on. Like, I reach out to CEOs in America, in Canada, asking them, oh, how do you do this? What sort of platform are you using? I ask questions. I've gotten to the level I understand that I gotta ask people that are doing things that I don't know the answer to. But I think it comes down to the way the educational system, I remember, going to school, I wasn't the sharpest tool. But there's something in the educational system that we don't realize that follows us even to our adulthood. When you're in classes, they don't support collaboration in classes. But in the world of business, the only way you can succeed is collaboration. You cannot succeed on your own. You may make some waves, but if you're talking about real success, you gotta collaborate. And that's one thing school doesn't teach us, collaboration. So you need to step away from that. School teaches you how to, show up, which is quite important. Be responsible, doing your assignments and, following things through. But you got to understand that the big piece of this is collaboration. Knowing that I lack in some certain things, who can I go to help me with those? And once you start purposely putting yourself in those rooms, having those conversations, amazing things start happening. So that's what I would say, based on Michael's question, would be strategically place yourself in the right environments. Get yourself a mentor. I say this a lot. Get yourself a mentor and you'll be surprised how amazing things will start happening in your life. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Another question.
Go for it.
Now, people, the young people in this room at this stage, right, who do not want to think like their parents thought. The parents at the moment are thinking about how do I get a better job, right, that pays me whatever I need to pay my bills and sustain the family and so on and so forth. And then children who do not yet have responsibility are potentially buying into these ideas that you've been sharing with us, which is fantastic. How do you then encourage such children to look beyond their current, family systems and the implications of that, and see hope for the future based on this? That's one. And secondly, how can people take advantage of the system that we have at the moment. I've seen, videos and conversations where people have talked about, taking advantage of what you possibly don't have, or rather what you have right now through the tax system legally to build wealth, or to build wealth. How do you do those two things together? So, first question, young people, how can they look beyond their current situation? And for others, how can they take advantage of the system to ensure that they're getting the best out of it?
That's a very emotional question in a way. And why I say it's emotional, I'll use myself as an example. Young people, honor your parents. You don't have to follow your parents' footsteps, but honor your parents. I think the Bible actually says that, honor your parents, right? My father never had a business. He worked for a corporation all his life. But I honor my father. There's certain things I will say to my father, certain things I won't say to him from asking advice on from a business standpoint. I'll say that's the only thing I don't speak to my dad about. Now, for youth growing up and you see your parents doing certain things and you've got this sort of idea, and based on the environment we're living in, there's TikTok, there's YouTube, and you see a lot of young people asking the same question: how can I start a business? It seems like it's the hip hop words out there in the market now, and the parents, on the other hand, they look at the parents and go, "Oh, parents just working here." That doesn't matter. Your parent plays a different role in your journey, right? Regardless of whatever your parents are doing, it doesn't really matter. It comes down to what's your calling. Your father's calling is different from your calling. Your mother's calling is different from your calling as well, right? And it should be silly of me or you as kids, those of you that are lucky enough to have parents, that still have your parents, it should be silly for you to look down and say, oh, why is mom like this? Why is dad like this? They're living their calling, and it's all different type of environments, the way they've been brought up and what they were exposed to. Now it's your time. What are you going to do with your life, right? So let's get that out of the way, right? So regardless of whatever your parents is doing, that's got nothing to do with you. But now for parents that are here, I'm a big advocate when it comes to parents, regardless of whatever you've done, regardless of in terms of what you've achieved in life. Every parent should always be the first mentor of their child. Then later on, pass them on to another mentor. Because we all know our kids will listen to an outsider than us most times. My kids do. I will say to my parents, don't do this, and I'll get somebody else to come say the same thing, and they'll say, oh, that's a great idea. Dad, I just told you to do the same thing with your super, and anyway, whatever. So, responsibility of a parents, you want to strategically, and for parents that have a business, for parents that have an idea of starting a business or running a business or doing stuff, involve them in in the process of doing your tax return. Even if you're just talking to them about, oh, listen, it's crazy that we don't talk about finance with our kids. It's disappointing. We are all gonna die, and our legacies, our kids, guess what? You are our legacies, are gonna take over where we left off. And we're not teaching them the little we know. Regardless, even if you think you don't know, it doesn't matter. Show them, point to the number. Look, and my income statement showed, you're cooking, I've got one on my hand. My income statement shows 60,000. So, and this tax return, this is the amount the government took away. Oh, Dad, why is that so large? I don't know. I gotta go speak to Collins on how I can get most of that money back, right? But we gotta start having those conversations as parents with our kids. And that's something we're not doing enough from a finance point of view. These are our next of kings. Now, going back to the other question that you pointed, which was, what was the other question again?
How do you take advantage of the tax system?
How do you take advantage? How do you take advantage in general, not just even tax system? How do you take advantage in general? Bottom line is, if you're an engineer, you know all things when it comes to do with engineering. If you want to take advantage of whatever, you're going to go source out the experts. You cannot know it all. It blows my mind when I see people talking about saying, you know what, I'm going to structure out my finance. Is this what you do on a day-to-day basis? What do you do? You're an engineer, you're a doctor, you're a solicitor. Then why are you trying to figure out all these benefits, the tax incentive, how I can... No. Align yourself with a good professional based on what you're trying to achieve, and they will let you know all the incentive, all the benefits that you can take advantage of. You don't need to know it all, but you need to understand the finance. Why I say you need to understand the finances, eventually, Esther is going to own multiple businesses.
Amen.
Right? She's going to own multiple businesses. As a business owner, she needs to understand the numbers, even if she's not an accountant. And I'll use myself as an example, and most business owners would have told you that they've gone through this situation. If you don't know the numbers, even your own accountants can take advantage of you.
Sure.
So you need to know everything in life. The numbers, you need to know the numbers. If there's one soft skill that you need to have, it's numbers. You need to, I'm not saying become an accountant, but you need to be able to look at financials and understand what those numbers mean. Oh, what does that mean? What does the depreciation mean? What does this, current liability mean? What does this non-current liability means? What does this asset portion mean? You've got to understand what those numbers mean. Do you know how crazy it is? A lot of business owners I see, and I ask them, oh, what's this on your financial statement? What does that, what's that entry for? They're like, oh, I don't know, ask my accountant. I'm like, holy sorry my language, but it scares me. That's a ticking time bomb. All it takes is one creative accountant to discover you don't know anything about it, and they'll tell you, we've paid your BAS, all good. Next quarter, you send the money to them, or pay the BAS, we've paid your BAS, but you don't know what's going on. Do you know how many business owners have been arrested by ATO because they haven't paid their BAS for like 5 years, and they thought the accountant was paying it? Right? So definitely I'll say know your numbers, but you don't need to know everything else. Because once you have a basic understanding of your numbers, then no one can take you for a ride.
That's good.
Yeah? Cool.